Okay, so I'm going to go through this first part a little bit faster because you're fairly familiar with the research methods. Uh, but, so we know psychology is a science. We know that they follow the scientific method. We know we can thank Mr. or Dr. Wundt for that, right? Characteristics of a science. We've got our 6 methods, right? Or 6 steps. We did our little chart on that. They use empirical methods, gathering data. They're asking questions. They may or may not be manipulating the variables. They have an objective, of course. It allows for hypothesis testing. They're coming up with that question and they're working on that question and they need to be able to replicate the results. Otherwise, it's a no-go. And they get their findings and then they hopefully they want to be able to make future predictions about what's going to happen next, right? So scientific method here. And why do we need research? Why do we need research? Because just asking people how and why they felt the way they acted, because remember, we're talking about brain research here, right? It's not all it's cracked up to be. People's memories aren't great. People's recall isn't great. Feelings are feelings. Feelings are feelings. And it's subjective, which means that it doesn't necessarily give us the kind of data we want unless we're looking about feelings, but then we still need to run those experiments and get it replicated over and over and over again. There's also something called hindsight bias. I don't like it when I'm watching things and the presenter keeps moving. So hindsight bias. Bias are those judgments that we all kind of hold with us, and it's kind of like that hindsight is 2020 that we talk about, like looking back, going, "Oh yeah, I knew it all along." Um, so back in 1977 and 1979, I was actually um, so studies from them showed some unanticipated results, some surprising stuff, and historical happenings can indeed seem like common sense. We're like, yeah, no duh, that no duh stuff. But that's not the case. So, for example, what would you think if you read psychologists have found that separation weakens romantic attraction? Because the expression is separation makes the heart grow fonder, right? Out of sight, out of mind, whatever. Because doesn't that feel wrong-ish? So I find these super kind of goofy here. We have errors in how we recall. Memories aren't perfect. We don't remember things, especially the more we ask about them, honestly, because as we retell the story and retell the story, so everyday thinking is limited not only by after the fact common sense, but also overconfidence. Um, if you were just to look at those words, if you didn't have the answers right in front of you, how long would it have taken? So I love mnemonic devices, memory devices. Being a language teacher, I love memory devices to help like jar memories, especially but if you didn't have it, like I don't know about Prega there. I don't know if I would have come up with it. And wheat, I would have gone with wheat. Like it would have confused me. But overconfidence, you see that and you go, oh yeah, oh wait, hang on. Memory recall is not really what it's cracked up to be. So you've got one up there. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. It's not on the screen, so you can look around and look around and look around, but I'll be quiet. So overconfidence. 2% of students entering college do not think they will make it. But the reality is 50% actually don't finish within the 4 years that we talk about a 4-year college degree. But curiosity, being a skeptic, having doubts out there, humility, being humble, help make modern science possible. It helps us not to overestimate our intuition, that like gut feeling, right? Which could be wrong. And so that's why we run experiments and why we gather data. There's a Polish proverb that says, to believe with certainty, we must begin by doubting. So that means don't even trust necessarily our own, like, for sure. Anybody that's like, yes, they speak in absolutes, they speak in for sures, they speak. Remember when you're told, like, don't use words like every and all and never in your writing. You should speak in more generalizations, because seldom is it always or never or every. So there's an interesting study by Wells and Bradfield about eyewitnesses, because you think they really make, of course, if you've got an eyewitness, then your case is going to be a for sure, right? Especially the more eyewitnesses you have, right? Must be even better. Well, can we trust them? Did everybody see the same thing? Could there be variables that change those accounts? How reliable are they? How often should we interview them? How many people should interview them? And their study showed how you can distort them. And there's also been studies about how the way you question them, this study in particular, how you question them, if you can get the answers that you want to get versus the reality of the situation. So that's that.